I think. All right, we're live.
This is exciting.
It is. So I guess we're not really going to be able to hear anything, though, since people won't be talking, obviously.
So we just talk?
We just talk, yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to, oh, it's blurred there. Sweet. So I'll go ahead and start talking now. Welcome you guys for the first, I guess, live stream that's going to happen on a monthly basis. Probably because I was nervous. I brought Jake with me today to,
Hi, guys.
to talk through some stuff here. So yeah, welcome. I think as far as like a little agenda today, I know I'll repeat a few of these things over again as we get more people involved, but I think that we'll start off just because Jake's here too. We'll do a couple like trip highlight discussion things at first, and then after we've got more people watching and there starts to be more chat going on in the little sidebar there. If people have got questions or want to chat about certain things, we'll take those questions too. So that's kind of a little overview today. Again, welcome if you're just joining us. So I guess to start off, before a couple quick announcement type things before we begin. Thank you so much to everyone who has done the survey so far. I think we're at about 42 or 43 responses so far. So there's still a chance if you're interested in winning either access to that free minimalism course, or if you want to win one of the coaching sessions, I've still got a couple prizes available. So that's something you can check out in my most recent video, the channel update video, if you are curious. Otherwise, I think, do you want to get into some trip highlights?
I mean, yeah, why not?
So with a couple trip highlights, I think we'll go through just like favorite moments of the trip, kind of.
Sure.
So do you want to start off with like favorite moments, or should I?
I mean, I can. Okay. Favorite moments of the trip.
If we had to do like a top 10.
If we had to do a top 10? Top 10 moments? Okay, yeah. No particular order. Mm-hmm. But I think one of my favorite moments was when we were in Greece, and the weather was not the favorite moment. It was pretty hot there at the time.
It was like 100 degrees.
As a world history teacher, ancient history teacher, I was really excited about going to Greece and nerding out about the historical sites. The Parthenon and the whole Acropolis area would be an obvious one. But one that I didn't expect to see is we were on, and I'm going to get this wrong, was it like the Orators, like rock? Yeah, the Orators rocks. We actually got to go to the place where the ancient Greek people who were able to be in the democracy and the government at the time, and this is like about 2,500 years ago or so, like the 500s BCE, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. Where they would meet up and they would actually go ahead and they would vote on the issues of the day that they had to vote on, I guess. And so we actually got to go there, and the tour guide who was taking us through there, it was like one of those free walking tours. He actually encouraged us and told us that on the ground there was like a bunch of pottery from that time. I think he said like 700 BCE to 300 BCE, somewhere in that range. And we actually I picked up like 4 different fragments of pottery that would have been used, I assume, from like the cups or whatever else that the people were bringing, like when they were, going along and voting. So that was pretty exciting to be able to bring that back, and I'll be able to show the kiddos that this year. And we'll see how cool they think that was. But just the area of Greece, I think was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and just to kind of jump in on that a little bit, what was so interesting, like we were picking these things up, we really weren't sure if they were actually like pottery pieces or just random rocks, but we figured we'll collect these as we see them, because they were everywhere. We weren't looking that hard, just like by where we were walking, and you could pick them up. And afterward, he went over to see like, hey, which one of these would be pottery? And he's like, they all are. So
yeah, I still don't know. He could have just been saying that
to make you feel good.
Yeah, maybe. I was just showing rocks.
I don't know.
This is pottery from Greece. I don't know. We'll see.
I would say a highlight for me, and this might actually be my number one, it's up there. When we were in Cairns, Australia, that's close to the Great Barrier Reef. Oh. And so that was just kind of a mind-blowing experience. I know we obviously haven't posted like the video footage yet from Australia, but
it's good.
Well, I haven't edited it yet, so I don't.
Well, I mean, it looks cool. So.
Well, excellent. But just being like able to snorkel there and see all of the, I mean, different types of coral, just a huge array of fish. I feel like I saw like literally hundreds of different fish species. Just kind of being there, it just was like taking your breath away. We were obviously wearing all the snorkel gear, but when there were so many moments where I just wanted to like smile so big, but then obviously I was like, okay, focus on the breathing. You can't really like let go of the snorkel mask in that situation. But it was just, it was so cool. And there's moments where you just can't believe how close you are to the fish. I mean, it feels like you're looking down at the bottom where there's all the different coral and stuff, but it feels like you're inches away in so many of the spots. So it was just super cool. That would be for sure one of my highlights, I think, of the trip.
It'd be up there for me, but I was a little sick during that time. So
you were still a trooper that you went.
Yeah, it was fun though. I felt like Darth Vader. Well, like breathing in the water, the snorkel. Well, yeah, because like I struggled with it.
Jake's a big Star Wars fan, by the way. I know that doesn't really come up on the channel because you're not really here that often, but we enjoy when you're here.
That's a little bit of a dig there. I don't know.
No, it's all good. Do you want to share another top moment? We've done 2 so far.
So now you're saying I can't count?
No.
Oh, I knew there was 2. I don't know. There's just a lot. I guess I'll go with just China as a whole.
Can we be more? We could be more specific.
Well, there's a lot. I guess I will go with. I'm going to steal one of your answers.
Okay.
So the Great Wall. That was pretty unbelievable, actually, just because you see all of the pictures of the Great Wall, and again, also ancient history nerd, so there's that too. But we actually drove out. We were able to hire another guide. He didn't take us to the main sites that most people visit, just outside of Beijing. That's where we were staying, by the way. And he took us 2 hours outside of the city to this. I don't remember the names, unfortunately, of the particular locations.
I'll include them in the video recap.
Yeah, there you go, in the recap. But nobody was there because, like, the main, like, say it's often like you're just looking at like a wall of people because it's so crowded and you can't really like move there. And our guide actually showed us like footage of that, like
from the same
day, like what we would have encountered if we went there. I maybe could count on like one hand how many like other tourists that we saw.
We hardly saw anyone. And we hiked for about 4 hours.
Yeah, so we got to go to an older section of the wall that wasn't as well preserved, but it was still really cool to see. And that was like about an hour. And then we went on a newer section that looks more like the wall that you see in all the pictures, with like the lookout posts and like the turret areas, and the one that's like winding on forever and ever. I guess that was kind of the other one too. But yeah, I mean, that was just really cool to see like all the nature, the trees all around there.
For sure. And just if you are just joining us recently for this live stream here, feel free to, if you want it in the chat, just type out, but I don't actually know who that is. So if you'd like to in the chat area, that's totally fine. We're just kind of doing a quick like overview of some trip highlights before we get into specific like questions that you guys have as well. So I know it's kind of awkward in the beginning stages, and I'm still a little new at this live stream stuff, but I brought Jake in just because since we were both on the trip together, it seemed like, a good idea. I think for another trip highlight for me would be in Bali, which we loved in general, every part of it, but especially when we were in Canggu, Bali, they had some specifics on there were these beautiful beaches, and we actually really enjoy walking on the beach. And sometimes beaches are more or less walker friendly. This one was very walker friendly. The sand was lovely, and we actually went out a little bit past sunset, so it was a bit darker, but there were still some lights. Hardly anyone was out though. It was just so relaxing. I feel like we walked maybe for a couple hours on the beach area there.
We just walked a lot in general on the trip.
True. So. That's all. Yeah, that's also very true. But yeah, the beaches there were amazing, and I don't know. There's just something so powerful about the ocean and obviously, I mean, you get it. I think a lot of people enjoy beach-related stuff. But yeah, that would be another top moment for me. How about another one for you?
I wouldn't really call this like a top moment in the sense of the word, like sounding positive, but I think if we change this like the 10 most significant moments, it would fit in. But when we were in Poland, so this was earlier on the trip, I'm sure you mentioned like we were traveling with like your parents and your sister. We went to Auschwitz as part of that. That was like the main reason that we actually went to Poland. We saw Krakow, and that was really nice. And so like I wouldn't say like this is like a top 10, but I think it's definitely one of the most important and significant places that we were at. Because you hear obviously about all of the atrocities that went on there, and of course it's just another feeling entirely to like actually be present, like where it happened. It's probably one of the most eerie feelings like I've honestly ever had in my life.
Well, yeah, it was a very emotional part of the trip.
Just being there and seeing the different chambers and what they used them for, and I don't know, it's just kind of hard to talk about. You just feel like, I remember we were talking about this with my family, and it's just like we were talking about the trip, and then it's just like you mentioned Auschwitz, and everyone's like, maybe not with the eyeballs, but like nobody says anything because it's just.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a painful.
I don't know, like I'm just blabbering on here. I can't really tell you like unless you get to see it.
Yeah, I mean,
for yourself.
It was a very meaningful part. Ooh, hello from Loretta. Thank you so much for joining us in Kentucky. That's awesome. Not too far away here from Illinois. So yeah, thank you so much. First chat of the live stream. Woo! Yeah. So anyway, moving on. Oh, yay! Hi, Megan from Boston. Ooh. Very cool. Love Boston. I haven't been in a long time. Actually, I've never been to Kentucky either. So I've
been to Kentucky.
Secret, maybe.
Boston and Kentucky.
Well, and other places. Oh, well, thank you, Megan. Very, very sweet. So anyway, continuing on, I guess, with another travel highlight then. I'll share another one. In our, and this is actually probably stealing one that you'll want to say.
Come on.
But in Australia, I'm doing another Australia one here. We are in Melbourne area, and there's a lot of beautiful nature in the area, and we did this, it was a tour with a couple different things, but one of the destinations was going to Phillip Island, which is where they've got these little penguins, and the penguins, they're less than a foot tall, and they're either called little penguins or blue penguins, and each day they actually, well, not all of the individual penguins, but many of them, they kind of migrate from the ocean into like their little burrows that they have on that island, and it was such a cute little journey. It's a really well set up exhibit. I don't want to say exhibit, but conservation center in terms of like they are able to get a lot of tourists visiting there, but they've got it set up in a way that the tourists are not really affecting the penguins, but you're able to view them, and the money then from the tourists coming is able to help support conservation programs. So it's really well set up, but you get to watch these little baby, well, they're not baby penguins, but they look like little baby penguins. They're hopping up from the beach, on the rocks, and then into their burrows. So it's super, super cute. Just want to say hello to Sandra from Brazil. That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And hello, Kid Gaming. I want to say, I think that's a former student of mine, Anthony, but I can't remember exactly right now.
It's a cool name.
Yeah. Absolutely. So anyway, that was another top moment there, the penguin parade, watching them come in. And from Martina. Thank you so much for jumping in. And Sandy, look at everyone coming in. Hi.
Mississippi, you haven't been to Mississippi.
I have not yet been. No.
I haven't either. To check it out.
Again, we have to do like a road trip.
Yeah, we got a lot of places we got to go still.
For sure. You want to share another trip moment? We're up to 6 now, so 4 left, and then we'll take more questions. I guess as you guys are typing things, if anyone has questions related to anything, travel, minimalism, whatever really is on your mind. Obviously, this is our first time doing a live stream like this. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with an obscure one.
Okay.
You might be stealing yours since you did take mine. But I hadn't thought of it yet. I would have talked about it eventually.
Okay.
Texas. Yeah, Texas is awesome. Hello. The turtles. In that was Bali, right? So this was one, it was kind of a funny experience looking back on it, because one of the main sites at least according to TripAdvisor, and I guess a lot of like the guides and the drivers there, it's like Turtle Island. And so our guide.
Well, that's a bad one. So if you're ever there, do not go. That we didn't go, but like ratings are terrible, not ethical treatment of the animals, like terrible place, and really expensive apparently too.
Yeah, just to even get to the island. So anyway, the reason I bring this up is because our guide that day, Bobby was our guide that day, right? Bobby, he thought, because that was like the main destination for turtles that people go to there, he was trying to take us to this island, and then Sarah's like, no, it's not this island, it's not this island. Like she's looking at her phone while where he's going. And so eventually we get all that sorted out, but there's this like, it's kind of an obscure place a little bit.
Well, it's like a locally run
it's a turtle conservation center. And so we got to go there and we got to learn a little bit more about the turtles, what they do, like for the different turtles. They rescue turtles from the sea. Like they had like some of the bigger adult ones that they may have, and this is kind of sad, like lost like a leg or lost a body part, and just giving them a place to be and to I guess be safe, because it is a little bit of a rough area, that particular beach.
A lot of the turtles there had they had suffered health complication from like plastic pollution as well that had messed them up too.
And then even on that shore, there's a ton of like bottle caps and garbage that was just up there. So it was a little sad. But the cool thing of what they do is that they rescue these turtles. They go out and search for turtle eggs like on the shore
that are at risk,
in case like if they're just there and by themselves, presumably like the mama turtle, something happened to them, they're not coming back. And they go ahead and they take care of them like till they hatch, and then they give them a few days. Like they had them like these little sections where like you can see like the very newborn turtles, like day-old turtles, 2-day-old turtles. I guess they only need or they give them a little bit extra time, about 3 days, because I think they do this a little bit earlier if they're on their own, like in the wild, and let them get comfortable like in the water and swimming around in there. And then what you can do, and they give you a little certificate with your like adopted turtle's name. I went with a donation. Yeah, donation. So I went with Squirtle, the Pokemon. They didn't really get it in Bali, but I had to do it. And we got to take the turtles and we got to go ahead and release them like out into sea. And we didn't like touch them or anything. Like they kept them in the water. You put them like in a little bucket to take them on this little like 5-10 minute drive. Maybe
they take you right to like
they take you there, and then you just gradually just let them out to sea. And you feel bad at first because you think that this little turtle is not going to make it, but they swim pretty. It
was
fast.
A really cute moment.
It was just something that probably wouldn't be the first thing people would think of when you're going to Bali, especially, but it was really cool.
Absolutely. Just want to say hello to Bill, who's watching from Illinois. Ooh. Very cool, close by. Another trip highlight for me, I think, and this actually was in the most recent travel vlog that was posted, so you might have actually already seen about it. But in that particular video, we had gone to Munich, Germany, and one of the highlights that I had been really obsessed with for a long time was the Neuschwanstein Castle. It's in Bavaria. It's a little outside of Munich, but that was like the closest big city. So going there was really amazing, just to be able to kind of have this vision of a place that I've wanted to go for a really long time, and actually like be there in person was pretty amazing.
It was a lot newer than I realized.
Well, it's a fairly recent, like 1870s.
Yeah, like the story around this guy, it was Ludwig, right? I think it was his name. The story around this guy, like wanting to build this castle and like, relive like the glory years of like kings and castles when they had power, like medieval times. I was just fascinated by that. He wanted to build a castle. He just built one.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Maybe.
But it was beautiful both inside and out, and just the nature around there too was just breathtaking. So that's pretty cool. Want to say hi to a couple people who've just joined us. Hi, Gay. Thank you so much for joining us here, and Andrea as well from Colorado.
Go Broncos! Yeah, I got family out there. They love the Broncos, so I can support that.
I'm not much of a sports fan, as I think you guys know, so I'm pretty neutral to a lot of teams. Go Athletics.
That's a team too. In Oakland, baseball.
They're called the Athletics.
The A's for short.
Wow, I had no idea.
Wow, this was a moment. I hope there's no one from Oakland that's watching you right now. So wait, how many have we done?
We just have 2 left.
Two left.
Yeah, so 1 more each.
Okay.
By the way, for those of you just joining us, we are sharing our top 10 moments from the trip, and then we'll get into some more questions. I've seen a couple pop in, so if you have any questions about trip stuff, minimalism, anything like that, please let us know here, and then we'll get to those very.
Again, there's like too many highlights to name if you're narrowing it down to 10. But I guess the last one I'll go with, kind of keeping with the World War II theme, was Berlin and just Germany. I guess in general, keeping with the Germany idea too. But we took another one of those like walking tours like around like the city, and we were able to see a lot of the different sites. And I guess one of the moments that really stood out to me was they made this memorial for the 6 million people who died in the Holocaust.
Jews. It's a memorial to the Jews.
Right. And the story was interesting because they knew they wanted to make this memorial, but they knew that whatever they made wouldn't do justice, because how do you memorialize like such a tragic event and for so many people? And so I hadn't known about this particular memorial until the guide showed it to us. But it was this big, large area, and it was just stone pillars, like rocks. And so like when you start,
I think they're concrete,
yeah. And their height, they're pretty short when you start, but then as you go in, they just get taller and taller and taller and taller and taller. And then as you leave, they would get shorter and shorter and shorter. But like the way that it's all constructed, and he told us later, they're only so wide apart so that just one person can fit through at a time. So like Sarah and I, if we were walking along, we couldn't walk side by side through there. There wasn't enough room. And he was saying the idea, at least that some people believe, it's supposed to make you go through that journey alone, and you try to wonder and you think about what exactly this memorial even means in the first place. And that's the thing, is that I don't believe that there's really a concrete meaning as to what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to stand for. And so I thought that was honestly pretty deep and pretty genius how they do it. And I mean, it's just so expansive in there too. Like, I mean, it would take quite a bit of time to like walk through all of that if you were trying to go through every little nook and cranny and passage. So I just thought that was a pretty powerful experience too.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I think finally, for my last trip highlight before we get into some questions, again, feel free to leave those minimalism or whatever related questions in the chat box there. I would say just kind of, this is a general one, but we started our trip in Iceland, which is a beautiful place and I love it. But I think what I really enjoyed most about doing that was the fact that it was my parents and sisters' first time of being outside the country.
Outside of North America.
Overseas. And just to kind of be able to watch them kind of interacting with it, enjoying it, and all together experiencing some of the different, just exciting and new things that come from travel, especially when you're out of your comfort zone like that. And so, not to say it was like a proud parent moment of like when your kid does something new and you're really like the tables were turned, just like, obviously like I'm obsessed with travel and enjoy traveling pretty much more than anything else. Just being able to kind of share that with them was super awesome. And since that was our first destination, that was, the first chance to see it. Because after you've traveled, at least from my perspective, compared to travel around the US, like after you've traveled internationally, like the first time, like overseas, you do start to kind of see things differently, and it does shift your perspective. And so I think from that perspective, it was really cool.
And I think the greatest compliment they gave you is that they'd want you to plan their trip again, even though they were really exhausted.
We did a lot.
But in
that was pretty cool.
Retrospect, they wanted you to do that, which is really cool.
Yeah, no,
and they're planning. I think they're planning their own trip to Canada next year, right?
I think so. I don't think anything's like.
Just the fact that they're like thinking about that, though. I mean, that's pretty much due to you. So.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to some of those questions here. So I think first one that came in was talking about how to. Oh, you're scroll. We're using Jake's computer, and I'm not quite used to some of it.
Yes. Sorry in advance.
No, it's okay. There was a question. So thinking about using minimalism, how can one start like cleaning their space, simplifying their space. So I think some good like starter tips here for with like including minimalism into your life, especially if you haven't done it before, is just, I think, starting to be more intentional, thinking about each item that you have and what kind of value it brings. So when we, in a normal, like very consumerist society, we're very motivated to buy things without actually thinking how will this add value to our lives? What do we need this for? It's very easy to get kind of sucked up into the hype that we have to have this because everyone has these kind of things. So I think when we go from that angle, when we're bringing things in, trying to be really specific and choosing the items that we think will for sure add value, not just mindlessly consuming. And then for the stuff that you already have and that you want to declutter, do it in that same kind of lens. When was the last time I used this? How often do I use this item? Does this item bring me joy? And if the answer is, well, I don't really use it anymore, and I don't think I'll use it coming up, and it doesn't bring me joy, then maybe that's an item that's a worthwhile option to declutter at that point. Anything to add on that one?
I mean, I like to think of too, what helps me get rid of some things that I struggle with, and I'm definitely no by any means perfect with it. But just thinking about if there's something I'm not using, somebody else is probably going to get value from that item if I let go of it and I commit to doing that. One example I can think of, this was like a couple years ago, I want to say, but there was like some old like magazines that I had, like video game magazines, like a Nintendo, I think is what it was. And
very specific example.
Well, here's the point. So I wasn't getting any value out of these anymore. Mm-hmm. I pretty much don't play video games anymore by choice. I just kind of wasn't really for me. Had a lot of headaches and didn't feel good after playing them. So I got rid of these magazines, and I just remember seeing an employee at I think it was a Goodwill we donated them at. They're like, oh my gosh, like these are like these Nintendo magazines, and like he was all excited. I don't know, maybe he just took them before putting them on the shelf, putting onto this stuff that was like in like a closet or like a box for like years. Somebody else can enjoy these, and then if they don't want them anymore, they can pass them on. So. And I think also if you're cleaning things out, just starting small is at least what I did, and still kind of do now. Is not trying to like get rid of everything at once, but just take your time, pick one area of the house. Not everything has to look super minimalist at once. Just focus on the living room or the kitchen or your bedroom. I know that's kind of how we started out. I think a lot of what I did at first was just getting rid of a bunch of clothes and getting my closet to the point where like I didn't feel embarrassed or upset with all these extra articles of clothing that I wasn't using anymore. So
well, exactly. I think with it just becomes easier to keep things clean than after you have less, because I will be the first to admit, and I think you've probably heard me say this in many past videos, I'm not a super clean person at all. Like I don't value cleaning as much as I should, and I'm trying to get better at it. I've made some small strides, but I also have moments where if everything else gets busy and I just, I don't have as much time to clean as I'd like to, put there, just having less stuff means you can't get things as messy, for sure. So that's like really positive then too. We had a couple more people join us. Phoenix Rise, hello. Badrul, hello. So exciting to see you guys here. All right. So we've got a question from Megan. How do you manage book clutter? Hey, married to a teacher. I share his love of books, but overwhelmed by the amount of them. I guess you can kind of see we've got some books going on over here.
Yeah.
I think at one point we did have significantly more books. I read a lot when I was a kid. I don't read as much now, but it is amazing how like different types of books accumulate. We have, I think for us, you've done a really good job getting rid of a lot of your books. So I don't know if you'll want to speak about it first.
Well, I think, you can probably see that the bookshelf does not speak minimalism right there now.
Well, but the sections you see, those are all my books right there. And I'll get to my answers in a bit.
But I think what I just did is like, I was pretty much honest with myself and just knowing like, if there's some book in there that I haven't read and I've had it for like years, I'm not going to read it, probably. Just let it go. And if I read in the library, I think initially what I was doing, and those are the books that I was getting rid of. So that way, if I did want to go back and read it, I could. But the is that I stopped making that list, and that's not even something that really is on my mind. The only books that I personally kept in there were a couple of ones just related to like history and teaching that I find very valuable, or that if I end up changing like a different subject, that'd be a resource that I definitely would want to look back and utilize. But otherwise, for the most part, and there were some books that I actually did get around to actually reading them, really enjoyed them, and then let them go. I think there's maybe just a couple other ones up there that fall in that category. You've got
like 3 books left. Like
I think she's being a little nice here, but
no 3 books.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much just how I roll with it, because I get very stressed very easily over oftentimes the littlest of things. And so for me, it's just easier to cut my losses and not put that pressure on myself.
For sure. With me and my perspective on books, I think it's kind of a complicated thing. I mean, for a while, like growing up, we lived in a spot of town that didn't have library access. It would have been several $100s a year to pay for library access. So I never really grew up that. I would use the school library, though. That was always really helpful. And then when I was in college, I used the library very heavily. But then when we first lived in Western Illinois, we didn't have library.
Well, we did.
We could have probably,
but we just
I think for a long time, I was accumulating books gradually, but a lot of them were used books. I'd buy things used online, or if it was like college books, that kind of thing. And so I feel like I wasn't really in the mindset of just using the library, just because it wasn't really an option for me as much. So I feel like at this point, like I've had more books than I really can get around to. So I did declutter a lot of them, but the ones I have left, I sort of see as like, I'm going to read them, work through them, and then declutter them. And this past year, I've done more reading than years past. I feel like I've always just been so busy with everything, and I finished up my master's degree. That was the last 2 years. So those have like different books and readings. And so I'm actually like enjoying getting back into like reading things for fun now, even though for fun, it's all pretty much nonfiction at this point anyway. But for me, where I'm at is I'll read a book and then declutter it. And eventually I hope that the books there are much reduced, and then to just be pretty much like strictly a library household. So the books I have, the sections, I've got teaching books, I've got business books, I've got a couple food related cookbook, meal plan type books. Most of it's related to teaching and education. And the cool thing is, since we came back from the trip, I've been trying to read often, like an hour a day. It's not actually happened every single day, but I've already gone through 2 books that were teaching related. So I'm working on it. But yeah, it's definitely really tricky to deal with that book clutter. I feel like everyone has to go through on their own path, but I definitely can. I agree with Jake. I had probably at least 20 to 30 books that were, those fantasy self books. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to be the kind of person that, that wants to read that. But the truth is, I feel like I had a gut reaction of whether or not I was actually going to read it. So.
Yeah. And it's like anything else, I think what I was saying earlier, that even though it looks kind of sloppy and crazy, it's a lot better than what it was. I think that bookshelf used to be like completely filled. And
yeah, when we had 2 bookshelves, but now it's just this one.
So it's just all about that idea of progress. It's never going to be absolutely perfect, but as long as you're getting closer to what your ideal is, then you shouldn't feel bad about that. This is how I look at it.
For sure. I am going to go to our next question. By the way, Megan, I hope that helped answer your question. We kind of rambled on a lot there. A question that came in from Sandra. Can you mention the top non-material benefits of being minimalists? I've been living this lifestyle for almost 3 years, and day after day, I feel it brings so many other life perspectives as well. So great question here. As far as the non-material benefits, I think for me, there's just much more, that's not good grammar. It brings like a sense of calm, and I especially feel like I've always got like a bazillion ideas in my head, thinking about all these different things. And so the fact that clutter in my space is not causing increased stress and ideas like that is so helpful. Like I said before, clean with having less of the stuff there as well. I think those are probably my 2 big ones. I think I'm happier too because of
non-material, but yeah, I would say definitely happier. As I mentioned earlier, and as Sarah can attest, I do get stressed out pretty easily, pretty anxious about a lot of stuff. So at least I've been able to cut down on that like particular negative kind of feeling in relationship to like what, kinds of items that I have. And I think also just because there's, less to think about in terms of stuff, it means that I can spend a little bit more time. And I'm not by any means like a perfect example of this at all, but just thinking about and trying to, maintain like connections like with family. I'm working on the friend part. Some friends I haven't talked to in a while, trying to get back into spending more time devoting to that.
Even new skills. You've started playing piano.
Yeah, I guess that required getting an item for it though, but intentionally bringing it in. So yeah, I'm trying to then like to learn how to play that. Play bingo, B-I-N-G, not bingo. What's the Old McDonald?
Oh, that's the song you're on.
No, that was an older one. But I mean, it's like basic stuff. I think I did This Old Man or something, like the Barney song.
Okay, I mean,
I don't know.
But yeah, spent with some of those other stuff that didn't add value, those other things that didn't add value, and now you're able to pick up a new skill and teach yourself how to play piano.
Right. So just making sure that, yeah, going back to whatever it is that I have, it's more aligned with what exactly it is I want to do or what values I have. That wasn't the greatest answer on my part there, but
I thought it was good.
Hopefully that helped.
Excellent. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like it is such a transformative decision. It's been like, now we've been on this journey for about 3 years or so, coming up on about 3 years. It was the end of 2015 where we first started making the switch here. And I feel like it affects every day. And, so much so that like it was a light bulb moment earlier on that I wanted to, create this YouTube channel and like this platform around it, just because I felt like the benefits were so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. This is from Christina. Any advice about how to stop from spending on unnecessary things, about budgeting? Would you be interested in doing a few episodes specifically about this? Yes, absolutely. I do enjoy doing financial related videos. I feel like one of my problems is just that I have so many video topics and ideas. Jake can attest to this, that I don't get around to doing all the ideas that I want to, or at least in a timely fashion.
You eventually.
But I swear, I've got like a list with probably over 100 video like topics ready. But anyway, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think too, what I love about this question is that from a lot of people, I think, focus on minimalism from the decluttering perspective, which is great. And I mean, that's very important. When we had so much stuff, like the decluttering perspective was very important. However, as this question kind of gets at, it's also really important that we adjust our shopping habits and focus on what's coming in, because if we only focus on the items that are leaving our space and are still bringing things in at a very regular pace, then we're not actually going to really solve the problem. Like it's going to keep being an issue. So with that, I think kind of like what I mentioned earlier on in this live stream, the best thing is to just really be intentional about thinking what items you're bringing in. I think one of our biggest areas we struggle with, like bringing things in, is if we overbuy on food. I love grocery shopping and trying new like vegan products.
Go on a grocery shopping trip with Sarah. It's very interesting. You go down every aisle, you look at.
Not always.
Okay, but more often than not.
That's a struggle area for me, for sure, on it. I think for a lot of people, they say, using the list method. I still don't really have great willpower with certain items, because, if there's a really exciting new product that I want to try, then, obviously that wasn't on my list. But so that's
every time.
That's definitely a challenger. Of course, that's a little different because those are consumable items. So usually we're not too bad about wasting food, especially like, those store-bought products that we're getting. But I think that when it's actual stuff that's going to stay in your space and be there for a while, that's where we want to be very intentional, and even thinking about why you want that item. I think it can be a little intense sometimes, but if we really think about why we buy what we buy and what feelings we have that are motivating us for that, and I think sometimes our insecurities about certain, maybe some more like body image issues, where I would think that, well, if I buy this particular thing, you know, I will look skinnier, or I want to do this because I want to purchase this because, you know, I feel like this will make me, I'll fit in more in this example, or in that particular, you know, piece. That's not a great example, but I think that we when we purchase things for different reasons that are sometimes based upon our insecurities or our beliefs that may or may not actually be true. And if we kind of confront those reasons behind purchasing things head on, and we reflect about what those are, that can be super helpful long term in trying to, you know, live more simply.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is, and you think you kind of mentioned it, Sarah, but raising the standards of like what exactly it is that you're buying. So I think I mentioned the clothes thing earlier. Anything that I buy now, for the most part, I try to hold it to like these standards of what kind of quality I want, down to like the material, down to how it was made, so on and so forth. And if like I get some like new item, I got to get rid of like something else that I already have. So that way, like the closet area doesn't expand to become like what it once was. Or maybe if I get one thing, I get rid of sometimes two things in return. So that way it never, you can still consume, but it makes you have to be more aware of, hey, is this really going to be something valuable to me, worth getting rid of something else that I already have? And there was somewhere else I was going to go with this that I'm forgetting.
Well, while you think about that, yeah, I mean, if you're purchasing less, that often means you can purchase better. And so if you hold yourself to those standards, you've done a better job with clothing than me. For me, if I'm bringing in new clothing, it either has to be secondhand or it has to be an ethical brand. So that eliminates a huge percentage of clothing. And after you educate yourself more on the topic, like now that I know more about ethical fashion, I don't want to purchase unethical fashion unless, like, that's where the used part comes in, because then you're not creating part of the problem by purchasing used things, because that person, whoever paid full price for the item, you know, already did that. So it's a bit of a different shift there.
Yeah, and you're not always, I'm not always perfect with that. Sometimes I buy something new that is quote unquote not as ethical, right? Like,
well, there's also different layers of ethical.
Yeah.
So you just have to figure out.
Yeah.
Some things it's just, there's maybe not, like, I feel like there's
workout attire.
Yeah.
Wear, unless you can get it used, but like I usually can't find anything in my size. Although actually I did get a couple.
Well, I was going to jump in. I think it's tougher for guys from the ethical fashion perspective. And we even see some of our favorite brands, like we love the company Pact. They're like organic cotton, fair trade. But their women's section's like 3 times the size of their men's section.
I just get emails for their women's section all the time. I'm like confused.
Well, that's because we've ordered stuff on your account for me, like, too.
I don't know though. I mean,
but anyway, so yeah, it's definitely, you just have to do your best, you know, in that situation. Let's jump into our next question here. This is from Here to There. Are you planning to upload the live stream as a video? Yes, the live stream, this is my first time doing it, but I think it automatically should pop up shortly after. So if anyone, you know, missed the first part and wants to catch that, or for anyone who's not here, it should be available just as a regular video. And I think that's kind of how they'll be going forward as well. And then I think that those are all the questions. If anyone has any more questions that they want answered, if you want to type those in at this time. Otherwise, I think we'll get started to kind of wrap this up here. I guess I should have asked earlier on if like sound quality, video quality is good. I just bought like a high definition webcam to try to get better quality, since the computer one's not very good. And since I'm going to be doing these monthly now, but I'm hopeful that, I'm not super techie, so I'm hopeful that it actually you know, worked decently. It looks like audio is maybe a little quiet. If anyone has any feedback on the audio or video, that would be amazing, just so I can improve for future sessions if needed. So thank you for being here today.
I mean, I live here, so
Well,
it's pretty
I appreciate
pretty
it.
difficult to make it over here, but
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback, Christina. That's perfect to know. Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, a little frozen. I'm not surprised. I feel like our internet goes through phases where it works really great and then all of a sudden it freezes up. So
for sure.
Part of the fun of live video here. Well, I'll keep mumbling on for a little bit in case there's any last questions, but thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you have not completed the survey that was on the most recent video, the channel update video, and you're interested in the giveaway option, I believe I still have, I don't know, I haven't looked to see if people submitted them during this live stream here, but I believe I still have at least a couple prizes available for people completing the surveys. The feedback has been phenomenal so far, and I've only skimmed a couple, so I really look forward to diving deeper with that and thinking about the ways that I can best serve you here at Abundantly Minimal. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Of course, if you are watching the replay and you have any questions you want to leave in the comments below, that is absolutely fine. And otherwise, we'll see you with some new videos next week. All right, bye, guys.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, now I just have to end. Here we go. All right, bye.
Bye.